Baseball in Japan is fascinating. It's the same game we love here, but also so different. From the venues and the traditions, to the ballpark food, it's all a big culture shock to fans who are used to MLB. I know this because last August I got to experience it, and here's how it all went down. Now, being the big baseball nerd I am, I wanted to make sure to experience as much as I could. The following was on my checklist. Number 1, attend at least one NPB game. Number 2, go to the Koshien. And last but not least, number 3, buy myself a glove. My experience started at what I consider the most iconic venue in Japanese baseball, the Tokyo Dome. Having been to numerous MLB ballparks in the States, I was curious to see how things compared here. I wanted to visit the Dome ever since I saw Ichiro's retirement in 2019, and finally being here was exciting. I remember my first thought upon seeing the Dome was that it looked more like a UFO than a baseball stadium. That day's matchup was the hometown Tokyo Giants against the Hiroshima Carp. Outside the stadium, there was a tent selling the away team Carps merchandise, something you never see at an MLB game. I'd soon learn that this was just one part of Japan's visiting team culture, which felt like a respectful version of English football, but we'll get to that later. Once we got inside, one of the first things I noticed was how clean it was. The concourse literally shone, and honestly, that wasn't too surprising since everything in Japan was clean. We got in pretty early, with batting practice still going on, so I was able to get this footage of the Carp taking BP. Then came the food, and let me tell you, the Tokyo Dome had the most expansive menu I've ever seen at a sports venue. Don't believe me? Here's a menu with a specialty item for each Giants player. Honestly, all these options were pretty intimidating to my hot dog-focused American mind, especially since I couldn't read most of the menus without Google Translate. So I settled for this simple beef curry, which I unfortunately didn't get a picture of, but looked pretty much exactly like it looks here. For 900 yen, about $5, I was very impressed. The curry was tasty and it was a full meal, which is something that's pretty much impossible to get for that price back home. Speaking of concession prices, that brings me to probably my favorite part of baseball in Japan, the beer girls. Instead of the dudes lugging around crates of cans like we have in the States, Japan has these girls running through the stands with massive kegs strapped to their backs. And when I say running, I mean they moved with some urgency. It was honestly pretty awesome. There seemed to be one in every section at all times, so if I wanted a beer, I never had to wait long. And the best part? Per Japan's no-tipping culture, a draft pint was only about $5. That meant you could actually get a decent drunk without handing over your whole paycheck, a fact that I happily took advantage of at every single game I went to. Getting to the actual game, the fan experience was unreal. Here's a clip from the player intros on the massive Jumbotron. I wouldn't say it was necessarily louder than games back home, but it was way more organized and the level of passion was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Every player had their own fan chant/song, and the fans would chant for the entire inning, no matter what was happening on the field, even if their team was getting crushed. It was a constant wall of sound coming from the designated cheering sections in the outfield. And yes, sections, plural, because each team had their own. Remember when I mentioned the away team culture earlier? The hometown Giants fans filled the seats in right, but the Carp had their very own section in left field. Whenever their respective team was batting, that section would cheer non-stop and wave flags. And as soon as the inning ended, the cheering would switch sides. Each group would stay quiet and respectful while the other was doing their thing. That's what I meant earlier when I said the best comparison is European football, but with a mutual respect. I also noticed many fans had these towels with characters, which I would later find out were different players' names. I picked one of these up as a souvenir, but I don't know exactly who it is due to my inability to read Japanese. I just asked the guy in the team store through Google Translate who the best player on the team was, and he gave me this one. The game itself was pretty standard, a 5-0 Carp victory. The one standout was the Carp starter throwing a complete game shutout on 132 pitches, which is kind of insane and would probably never happen in MLB. Also, can we talk about this scoreboard? It was packed with so many characters and symbols I couldn't read. Also, the velo is not in freedom units. After the game, the Carp cheering section stuck around long after everyone else had left, still chanting and waving flags, a level of dedication I have never seen. Just take a listen. And all that for what I'm pretty sure was just a regular season game on a Tuesday night. I also got to experience a game at the rival Tokyo Swallows ballpark. They are like the Angels to the Giants Dodgers, like the ones from earlier, not the San Francisco ones. This ballpark was outdoors and felt a bit older and more worn in than the Tokyo Dome. Other than that, everything else was pretty similar to the Giants. Plenty of food options, a clean environment, and the same fan culture with home and away cheer sections going all game. Though I will say, the Swallows had a pretty cool tradition where fans waved little umbrellas when they scored, which I thought was really fun. And yeah, of course they had the beer girls. I'm not exactly sure why, since the announcement was made in Japanese, but midway through the game, the price of beer dropped to about $2 as a part of some promotion, which was awesome. Funny story though, I was just sitting there enjoying the game when out of nowhere I felt an entire ice-cold beer pour down my back. I turned around to see a Japanese man profusely apologizing. After a quick and poorly translated conversation and a bunch more apologies, he waved over a beer girl and bought me a beer to make up for it. The Swallows ended up winning on a walk-off from WBC legend and likely future Dodger Munetaka Murakami. Also, you know I had to get his towel thingy. Before we continue, I just wanted to say real quick, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. Your support means so much, and if you're new here, consider subscribing, you won't regret it. Koshien is a whole different kind of beast. Think of it as Japan's version of March Madness, except it's high school baseball. 49 teams battle it out in a single elimination format, playing in front of a packed 47,000-seat stadium near Kobe, while the rest of the country watches on TV. Nearly every Japanese baseball star you've seen in MLB once took the field here as a teenager. With my Japan trip just happening to be in August, the month of the tournament, I knew I had to see it. Not gonna lie, getting tickets was kind of a struggle, since there wasn't much information in English. But after some digging, I stumbled onto this site and managed to grab them. The Koshien takes place at Koshien Stadium, a ballpark built specifically for the tournament. The rest of the year, it's home to an NPB team, but in August, they clear out, because the Koshien just means more. The stadium itself was impressive. The ivy-covered exterior instantly reminded me of Wrigley Field, which makes sense since it opened just 10 years after the friendly confines. Even Babe Ruth stepped into the batter's box here, just like he did in Chicago. Check out all these historic plaques. The day we went was during the earlier rounds of the tournament, so there were 4 different games scheduled. The stadium had a classic charm and was very picturesque, but it lacked some of the amenities the other venues had, and it was noticeably dirtier. But honestly, I'm chalking that up to hosting games all day, every day during this stage of the tournament. One thing I noticed about the atmosphere was that the crowd was almost entirely Japanese. Unlike at NPB Games, where you might see a few other foreigners, I didn't spot a single one here. The crowd stayed pretty full all day, and each school had its own cheering section, similar to the pros. Except some were larger, some smaller, some did choreographed dances, others stood in neat formations, but all of them cheered relentlessly for their team. After each game, the winning team would bow to the crowd, and then run over to their section to bow again. As the sun set, I was able to snap some really nice photos. And on the way out, I caught this shot of the media taking pictures in the outfield. I picked up this towel commemorating the 106th Koshien, complete with the names of all the teams that competed that year. A pretty sweet souvenir in my opinion. The last thing I wanted to do was get myself a glove. I'm no glove collector or anything, but I figured a glove would be the perfect unique souvenir that would last me a lifetime, and one day, something I could use to play catch with my kids. I also remember seeing Shohei pitch with this cool Asics glove, and I've wanted one ever since. While in Tokyo, I went to a couple of shops trying to find the perfect one. But before we get to that, can I just say Shohei's face is literally everywhere in this city? Seriously, take a look. Anyway, these shops were all so cool. I'll list their names in post, but each one was entirely baseball focused and stocked with every type of baseball gear and memorabilia you could think of. This shop was especially cool. It had this glove shrine where you had to take off your shoes and walk up to the tatami. After browsing all the colorful options, I ended up choosing this tan Asics glove with a compass design in the webbing. And that was pretty much my whole Japanese baseball experience. Thank you so much for watching.